Why do leaders avoid accountability? I mean, the answer is it's almost instinctive because from the very beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 3, the story where God created Adam and Eve, he gave them one rule. Don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They did it anyway. And then God approached them and said, "What did you do?" God went up to Adam first and said, "Did you eat from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" And Adam's response was, "The woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate it." Adam immediately shifted the blame. He did not take accountability, and he shifted the blame to Eve. Then God went to Eve and said, "What have you done?" And Eve's response was, "It was the serpent. He deceived me, and I ate." Eve shifted the blame and accountability to the serpent. Here's what I want to tell you, is that God, the ultimate leader, allowed them to make the mistake. He didn't stop them. That's leadership, letting people learn. But then he held them accountable. There were consequences, and there was discipline. You know, Brene Brown says something that I really love. Accountability is not about punishment. It's about owning the choice and the consequence. And this was the first leadership lesson from God. But in this video, I want to talk to you about the 3 reasons leaders run from accountability. The 3 reasons why leaders run from accountability. And I'm going to talk to you about how to fix them. Because if you're a leader, well, we're all leaders. Before we can lead anyone else, we have to lead ourselves. So when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see somebody that's accountable? Do you see somebody that's growing every single day? And not on an astronomical scale, but just 1%. Do you see somebody that you trust? Do you see somebody that's being impeccable with their word? Do you see somebody that's making excuses? Do you see somebody that feels like they're better than other people? Do you feel like you may not be exactly where you want to be right now as a leader, your company, your business? Well, the reason may be is that you don't need a new you don't need a new team. You don't need any new information. You just need a new lens. Welcome to the Perspective Pause. This is a weekly live stream. My name is Chesko. Some people call me Let's Go Chesko. My name is Francesco Franzese, and I'm here to make shifting your perspective easy. Come on now. But no, welcome to the Perspective Pause. If you haven't been here before, we're going to change the way you look at things today. And we're going to change the way you look at leadership. And I'm going to help you see the 3 things that you may be doing. Most leaders are. They just don't want to take accountability to it. And it's stopping you from building exactly what you want to build. Because it all starts with you, right? It all starts with you. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you get any value from this. But most importantly, all I ask you is if there's any leaders in your life that are wanting to grow, right? Because I can't get you to grow if you don't want to grow. But if there are any leaders in your life that you know are willing to grow, make sure you share this video with them. Because I promise, you know, it may be a long video. This is a live stream. Sometimes I get in the zone and I keep going. And I do need to probably make some other videos on this channel that are a little bit shorter, more precise and locked in. But I really want to have more of an organic feel to being able to let you know that this is something that I'm highly convicted of, right? I really believe that accountability is absolutely everything. And what's really wild is that it's actually the number one thing that leaders lack. And it's interesting because when I started this video up, we talked about, how it's biblical when it comes to leadership, right? And the first lesson of leadership was from God. And he did let them make mistakes. He didn't micromanage them. I want you to like really, really pay attention to that, right? Because a lot of leaders or so-called leaders feel that they need to micromanage other people, but that's a flaw in their leadership because you're not actually building a system that has a clear expectation for what people are supposed to do when you are leading them, right? So you can't micromanage people. You have to let them make mistakes just as you did in order for them to become leaders, right? And then secondly, holding them accountable, not ignoring the consequences, and then applying discipline. Growth requires correction. But Adam and Eve, they avoided accountability, right? I mean, they literally blamed someone else. They didn't want to take the fault for it. And here's the reason why people run from accountability. That's really what I want to talk about today. The 3 reasons leaders run from accountability. Because the same issues back then, 6,000 years ago, are still the same reasons why leaders avoid accountability in 2026. It's ego, it's pride, and it's pain. And today I'm going to show you what each one of them looks like, why we do it, and how to fix it. Because here's what you need to understand, right? Again, you don't need a new team. You need a new lens. You don't need a new business. You need a new lens. You don't need a new direction. You need a new lens. You don't need a new life. You need a new lens. And if you fix these 3 things, your ego, your pride, your pain, you're going to become the greatest leader that you possibly could ever be. And again, these aren't things that you're going to fix overnight because the majority of you even watching this probably don't even know how to recognize these things. So let's kind of like go into it, right? So what is ego? Number 1, right? Well, ego is a lack of humility. Someone that won't accept feedback. Pretty much stating that I'm right, you're wrong, that's just what it is. I like what John Maxwell says. He says that ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. There's like this old lens that a lot of leaders have, right? It's the ego-driven leader of saying that, I'm good enough already. I don't need any feedback. I know better than my customers. It's my way or the highway. If it's not working, it's their fault, right? It's almost like it's almost like I always go back to thinking about Jesus, right? As the greatest leader of all time. And when we think about Jesus, what do we think about, right? We think about the ability to be able to perform miracles, but the humility to wash the feet of strangers. That's humility, right? That's an accountable leader. And what's interesting is that like Jesus would wake up early in the morning to go pray every single morning, right? He knew that he could go ahead and bring somebody back from the dead, but he would still be in prayer. He would still say, how can I grow? How can I become better? How can I keep my focus on where I need to be, right? Because the old lens that people use is talking about I don't need feedback, but the new lens is saying that I need feedback to grow, right? Vulnerability is not like because you got to be vulnerable, right? Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. And I'll kind of let you know, right? Because there's a lot of leaders that I've been under, right? There's I've worked in corporate, I've been an entrepreneur, I've worked even in captive insurance companies where I was a W-2 and a 1099. Like I've worked in every sector of business, and what I've realized is that they all lack leadership. And some of them I've been blessed enough to work under certain leaders. And what's interesting is that I'll remember the impact that they put on me for the rest of my life, right? So when we talk about ego, there was a situation where I was actually in a place where I was working with somebody that I looked up to, right? High ticket business consultant, right? And he has high ticket offers. And the service is kind of low though, right? And I'll never forget kind of questioning maybe some of the processes inside of the business, right? There was a situation that occurred to where basically I recognize something, right? And I'm the type of person that if I recognize something that can be fixed, I will state it, right? I don't know if you guys are the same way. Are you guys the same way where like if you notice that something needs to be addressed, or you notice somebody's blind spot, or you see how you can help somebody, you'll actually say something because you know that you've experienced or have the knowledge and wisdom to be able to see how it can be improved with a certain process, right? So I actually was talking to this this business consultant about something very, very simple, right? I noticed that they were struggling with getting a contract completed properly for somebody that paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And you would think that somebody is taking hundreds of thousands of dollars on a offer or a service or a product, that they would have something as simple as a contract, in a process. And so I witnessed a conversation from this leader having a conversation with someone that worked with him. And he was telling them, you can't get this right. This is the third time. I don't understand why you can't get this right. And so I stated, hey, leadership starts with you, right? Have you demonstrated what right looks like? And he's like, yeah, I've done that, a million times. And I'm like, well, is it documented on a piece of paper? And he's like, that's really not important. What's important is that he can't get it right. And I said, what's important is that you haven't shown what right looks like. There's a framework that I like to talk about, which is the D-Day framework. It's demonstrate, delegate, automate, elevate, right? So we cannot correctly demonstrate what we haven't correctly, we can't correctly delegate what we haven't correctly demonstrate, what we don't demonstrate, right? So what I mean by that is like, you can't expect your team to do things at a high level if you haven't shown them exactly what to do. And the only way that you can prove that you have is if you've documented it. Demonstration is documentation. And without clear documentation, you're going to have some poor delegation and whacked out automation. I'm just saying, you have to be able to identify what it is that you want, show somebody the way that it needs to be done. Then you can start saying, you know what? I'm going to hold them accountable. Because usually the people that are working from you making mistakes, if you haven't had clear documentation and demonstration, it's your fault. It's your fault. So what I want to say is that, this person, I mentioned to them, I said, hey, if you put a contract in place, really quick, simple automation, right? Something that we help our clients with all the time, just a simple automation with a contract in place, and it's done correctly, and it's sent out with things called custom values, right? And custom fields. I won't get too technically jargony today, but there's an area to where you actually can build out a template contract and then put in the custom fields, custom values, and those types of things to be able to make sure that it is created without any mistakes. Right. So if the person's name, the first person's address, the person's phone number is all correct, it would be basically based on whatever that person entered, the customer, the client. Right. So and this may be a long-winded story, but I have to tell you the story because it's a very simple fix. But what you realize is that a lot of leaders, they run from the accountability of saying, OK, well, it's my fault because of their ego. And ego could turn the thought of having a conversation with feedback into making it feel like it's actual failure. But the truth of the matter is a leader who refuses feedback is a leader that's headed for failure. Right? So you have a leader that thinks that, hey, if I get feedback, I'm failing. But that's not the real mindset or the real lens of looking through a leader lens. A leader lens is going to tell you, you know what? It's not failure. It is feedback. because now you're fixing the problem for the next customer. You're fixing the problem for the next client. And if you're charging people tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but don't want to take the accountability of fixing something that would cost you a few $100, and once it's fixed forever, that goes to show that your ego is in the way of you giving a great experience to your customers. And it says in the Bible, we're supposed to love others like we love ourselves. So if you're avoiding feedback or small adjustments in your business because of your ego, you're going against Scripture. Because if we're aware that we could provide better service for somebody else, aren't we supposed to do that? We're supposed to serve others, right? So anyway, when I talked to this person and I told him, he was like, no, I'm good. He probably still has the same problem now today, but it's allowed me to see who somebody truly is. You know, people will say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, right? Show me your habits, I'll show you your future. I like to say, show me your behaviors and I will show you your future, because your behaviors are who you are. The decisions that you make on a daily basis and how you react and adjust to different things, like it says in the intro, if you're watching this, you know, in the first 24 hours, there's an intro on this video that talks about we don't react, we reframe, right? And that's really what leaders need to do, is they need to reframe the way that they're actually looking at getting feedback. And it's so crazy, because it's almost like people would rather avoid to improve their service to not look like they don't have it all together. But the ego is going to kill the leadership, because nobody has it all together. And there was some research, right? Obviously, we got to get into some research, right? There was some research that shows that let me get this out of the way here. This is stopping me. There was some research that showed that basically it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the research stated that people with low competence overestimate their ability, and people with high competence underestimate. So the translation to that is like, the more ego that you have, the less you actually know. Brene Brown says, true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And ego is the mask that prevents that from happening. So how do we fix ego, right? Because we want to be better leaders, right? We don't want to be these a terrible leader. We want to be a better leader, right? So we have to ask for feedback regularly. We have to change from avoiding feedback to actually asking for it regularly. So what's one thing I can do better? That's what you want to ask yourself. What's one thing that I could do better? Where am I blind? What are my blind spots? Number 2, you want to assume that you're wrong until proven right. You have to know that you don't know everything. And you have to test your assumptions. Let the data correct you, not defend you. Right? It's not, we're not looking up data to defend that you're right. We're looking up data to see how you can do better. Then you must practice humility daily. I don't know. Great statement. But it's a complete sentence. Just say that. I don't know. It's the most difficult thing for people to say. It's because they always want to be right. They want to seem as if they know everything. But to be honest with you, those are the people you want to run from. You're right, I'm wrong is a leadership phrase. Like, I don't know, being able to want to just make yourself right in any conversation is not even a safe conversation anyway, as it is, right? It's a conversation where it shows that it's one-sided and you already have an objective to feed your ego versus wanting to attempt to stay in the dialogue and grow. Scripture says, Proverbs 11:2, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Reason number 2, pride. What is pride? Pride is stating that I'm better than everyone. Nobody can do it like I do it. Like I do it. Speaking of I do it, I had a note here I wanted to share. You know, it's interesting when you think about pride, when you want to define if somebody's full of pride, you know, it's basically like, you know, thinking that you're better than everyone else, believing nobody can do it like you. And the root word of the word pride is superbia, right? It literally means above others. And pride is literally seeing yourself above everyone else. But let me give you a perspective pause moment, right? Look at the word pride. Pride. The letter I is right in the middle. And that's the problem. When I is at the center of everything, pride controls you. So if you are wanting to know whether you're a prideful leader, it means that you're usually just focusing on how nobody can do what I can do. I am better than my team. If I don't do it, then it won't get done right. I'm never wrong. They are. But that's a pride-driven leader. A pride-driven leader. And, you know, I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and they told me, we had a meeting, and he has a fencing company, and good guy. I love him to death. Great heart. But he told me something yesterday, and he goes, hey, you know, I don't believe that there's anybody that can do what I can do. And I said, well, let's take a look at a very large fencing company. So, you know, we pretty much looked at a fencing company, larger company, 500 employees. And I said, if the person that was only working with a couple of employees at that time said that nobody could do things like I can do them, would they have grown that large? And not only that, it's kind of like the red car effect, right? If you say all the time that nobody can do what I can do, then you're putting up a wall from actually growing your team. You're allowing them to feel like they're going to continuously walk on eggshells. And they're not going to feel like you're going to take any accountability, nor are they going to actually look at you and say, wow, he's going to empower me to grow. Because if nobody can do it like you do, well, not you, I, we'll say I for the word pride, right? I in the middle of pride. But if nobody can do it like I can do it, then how do you expect to ever build a team? Because there's nothing that you can do like everything that you're great at, right? Like everything that you're great at, as far as what you contribute, there are areas to where there are other people that are better than you. And here's the thing. It's like the red car effect. I was just saying this right a second ago. It's like when you really think about things, right? When you really think about things, think about it like this. So think about it like this. If you walk around with the mindset and the vision and the lenses of saying that, you know, nobody can do this like me. Well, that's exactly what's probably going to be seen. Because what you see is what you get. If you label something, then every cell in your body in the world is going to adapt to that belief system. And if you hold on to the limiting belief of nobody can do what I can do better than I can do it, then you're literally holding on to a limitation. So if you're going to hold on to that limiting belief, it's going to cause you to look through a limiting lens. Man, that's so good. If you continue to think about a limiting belief, then you're going to look at life through a limiting lens. Man, that's so good to me. Like a limiting lens. I never thought about that. But that's how we're looking at life. Life is going to conform to our belief system. If we believe that, this is what I told him yesterday, right? Because he said, you know, nobody can do it like me. And I said, okay, what if you just believed that people could? What do you think that you're going to start seeing? You're going to start to see opportunities for other people to bring them in because you're going to start seeing things through a different lens. And if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Shout out to Wayne Dyer for that one. And that's like so accurate, because if you could look through a lens of saying, you know what, there's people out there that can take the things that I'm doing, because if you're doing 5 things, you probably need 5 people. You can't do all 5 things at top notch at the same time. Didn't mean to go deep into this, but it's something in real time, right? And I think that I noticed what pride looked like in real time. And I was going to have a different story. I'm not going to bring that up for the sake of time, but I'll just kind of lean on this one. Is the moment that you believe that nobody can else do it as good as you, is the moment that you're never going to see opportunities to bring people in for you to lead them, to teach them to do what you do, because you'll never trust that they could actually do it. Pause. That's a perspective pause. You'll never believe that anybody can actually do something. I mean, there's billions of people on the planet. But it's something we want to hold on to. And sometimes it's not what we don't know that holds us back. It's what we do know that we hold on to that's not a fact. So we got to look at this through a new lens and be an accountable leader. This is a leader lens. I train people to do it better than me. You know, when you have mentors, when you have good leaders, don't like put a cap over your head. They want you to succeed. They want you to do better than them. Like a leader lens says, my team's success is my success. My team's success is my success. You know, I talked about this in a couple of videos about a month ago. We were talking about the book Good to Great, where he said that, you know, a good leader is quick to look in the mirror for blame and quick to look out the window to praise others. But a bad leader is quick to look in the mirror to praise himself and look out the window to blame others. I love what John Maxwell says. He said, a leader's job is not to do the work. It's to develop people who can do the work. So good. Y'all getting any value from this? Drop some rockets in the chat if you're still rocking with me. Hopefully that this helps on a level of accountability. But the reason why we run from accountability is because of ego, is because of pride. And here's some research on pride, right? The study was done, the psychological safety. This was Google's Project Aristotle. The number one predictor of high-performing teams, psychological safety. Psychological safety. I see you in the chat. Let's go. Can people speak up without fear? Pride destroys psychological safety. When a leader has too much pride, people stop contributing their ideas. Innovation dies. Team performance drops. Nobody's going to trust you today if you keep allowing your ego to get in the way. Come on now. But how do you fix pride? You got to celebrate others publicly. Give the credit away. Highlight the team. Wins over the wins over the wins. If you don't know how to celebrate a win, that's a problem. I see too many leaders that don't know how to coach people because they go straight into the problem instead of celebrating them for something to make them feel safe. You can't get people to grow slapping them around. You can't get people to grow if the only time that you talk to them is telling them that they're doing something wrong. Like, you have to change your programming in your mind to say, let me focus every single day on something good. Find somebody in your organization. Like yesterday, I called one of our clients yesterday just to let them know, hey, listen, I just want to tell you I appreciate your business. After getting to talking to them, there was a struggle that he was dealing with. We were able to solve the problem. He was like, man, I'm just so grateful that I'm doing business with you. You know, I'm so grateful for that. And then 3 hours later, he sent me a referral. He said, hey, I got somebody else. I'm going to put him in a group chat with you. He really needs these services. He was working with somebody else, man, but all they cared about was the money, man. And you know, you've made me see that you care about us and our success more than anything else, man. And that's somebody that I want to work with and also refer people to. That made me feel really good. So, celebrate others publicly. Give the credit away. Highlight your team. The wins. I mean, what is a win? My definition of a win is what's important now. And I use acronyms and break words down to help me remember them. But what is a win? It's what's important now. Is what's important now what somebody's doing wrong to make them feel small? Or is what's important now something that someone is doing well so you can empower them, encourage them, celebrate them, and push them? You know, people get pushed by good leaders because of them showcasing exactly what's going well. In every single book that I've ever read about coaching, in all the years that I've been coaching people, I've realized that when you focus on what went well, and it's the most difficult thing for people to see because they're so focused on what they're doing wrong. It's crazy to me, but you know, it was crazy to me when I first started too. But it was back in like 2013, I want to say, when I was certified as far as coaching, and I was able to see how I could take somebody from a Walgreens, hire them, that worked in a photo lab at a Walgreens. I was able to hire them, bring them in, coach them, train them, develop them. Now they're store managers, and ongoing to their careers, they're learning how to be better leaders because of the fact that they were under a good leader. And I'm not trying to, tell myself that I'm great, but I'm following the principles. Right? Like, I'm not going to be like, man, I'm the greatest leader there is, but I'm going to tell you that I'm following principles, and principles don't lie. Principles just automatically work. And I'm telling you right now, one of the principles when it comes to coaching is celebrating others publicly. And then correct privately. Praise publicly, correct privately. You never want to humiliate someone to prove your authority. You see that sometimes when people have a high level of pride, is that they will humiliate someone to just make sure that people know who's in charge. And they'll do it in front of other people to prove that their authority is there. But to eliminate pride, you have to build people up in front of others. You know, it's incredible what'll happen if you help people feel good about being around you. And then admit when you're wrong publicly, which is the simplest thing to state, but the hardest thing to do. Admit that you're wrong publicly. I just love everything that Brené Brown talks about with vulnerability is leadership. There's nothing to hide. Like when people think that there's something to hide, I mean, it's even like me, right? Sometimes I struggle with this myself, right? Because I don't want to share some of the more deeper, intimate things that are going on in my life. But it's like when I do, that's how people know that I'm human. I mean, I have daughters, right? And there's been moments like when I had to sit down my daughter with the first person that she said she was dating, right, on the couch. There's been times with my other daughter to where she wasn't doing good in school at all. And, I couldn't get it right. But after time, I was able to work it out, and now she's in a better place. But I mean, a lot of people will talk about, man, I'm doing great at these types of things, but they don't talk about the struggle that's necessary to become great at those things. Because the reason number 3, the 3 reasons why leaders run from accountability. Number 1 is their ego. Number 2 is their pride. But number 3, pain. Pain. They don't want to face the consequence, so they avoid the accountability. I believe that leaders avoid pain because they think that it's punishment. But pain is not punishment. for what you've done is preparation for who you're about to become. And we need to reframe pain. Like avoiding hard conversations, not admitting, mistakes and running from consequences. It's like these are the things that we do to avoid pain. But I mean, let's face it, right? Anything that created pain created change. My mother's a psychologist, a behavior specialist, right? And I remember she always used to tell me, anxiety creates change. Anxiety creates change. And I remember when I went through my season after my divorce where I was severely depressed, suicidal, extreme anxiety, tons of medication, couldn't even get to the mailbox without having an anxiety attack, panic attack, heart racing. Heart rate would just be 160, just out of nowhere, right? And I would run back inside and I'd go on YouTube and try to listen to meditation videos. And I was taking antidepressants and other type of numbing medication to really kind of numb all that out. And I didn't realize that, like, in that season, I was doing everything I could to eliminate the anxiety. I didn't want to feel the pain of the divorce. I didn't want to feel the pain of uncertainty. I didn't want to feel the pain of not knowing what's going to happen and feeling the pain of a rock bottom. So I just numbed myself out. Like, my coping mechanism was taking pills and avoiding everything that may have been painful. It got to the point where I associated everything with pain, and even leaving my house for a few minutes was painful. Even just driving my car to go pick up my kids from school was painful. There were moments where I drove to go pick up my kids from school. My panic attack was so bad that I would call a family member and say, hey, I got to pull over. I think I'm going to die. And there were times where they would pick them up for me during that period of time. But I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, yeah, but I fought through it and everything was good. Yeah, over time. But sometimes you have to feel the pain. You have to feel the anxiety to create the change. And it wasn't until I got off all the medication and I found other ways to cope and know that, hey, listen, the pain is necessary for growth. The anxiety is necessary for change. I didn't understand what my mom told me all those years until I was able to look back. It's kind of like what Steve Jobs says, right? We can't see what's going to happen looking forward, but we can connect the dots when we look back and see why everything happened the way it did. Because that caused me to go down a very deep, some deep, dark depression, but also self-reflection. I feel like that season of my life, God slowed me down so he can speed me up because I saw many things in that period of time. And I had to endure the pain. So don't avoid the pain, because the pain is something we must feel to humble ourselves too. I had to lose everything 3 times in my life to finally get to a point and understand the value of a dollar. And even the second time I lost everything, I was going out there talking about finances and money and stuff like that. But when I would make money, it was still just a validation for me to feel worth anything. But money doesn't make you anything. It makes you more of what you already are. It just empowers the person that you already were before you had money. So if you're somebody that's evil, you'll just be somebody that has more options and still evil. If you're somebody that's a really good person and you like to do things for others, you're probably going to do more for others now because you have more options to do for others, right? Anyway, I didn't mean to go off left, but I want to talk about the new lens, right? The new lens is an accountable leader, and it does, and a leader lens shows that pain is preparation. Hard conversations create growth. They create change. Anxiety is necessary. Uncertainty is necessary. If I always like to say that the opposite of faith is not fear. The opposite of faith is uncertainty. Because we have to lean and trust in something that we don't see. Pain is temporary, y'all, but avoiding pain creates permanent problems. Pain is temporary, but avoiding pain creates permanent problems. Because avoiding pain is avoiding preparation. Avoiding pain is avoiding prevention. You may be trying to prevent pain, but the pain is actually prevention. Because so many people, they get sick and now they want to do everything to try to get better. But if you just would have endured the pain of discipline to take care of yourself, then you wouldn't have to live in the heavy pain of regret. Yeah, I hope you can feel that, y'all. But the truth about pain, is that you learn by failing. I reference John Maxwell a lot lately because I've been really reading a lot of his books, and he has a book called Fail Forward, I believe is what it's called. And he talks about how failure is not the end. It's actually just feedback to begin. So everything that you learn from were mistakes that you made in the past. And I like what Dan Martell says. He says that mistakes are good as long as they're new mistakes. As long as they're new mistakes. And pain is not the enemy. Pain is actually the teacher. And it may be uncomfortable in the moment, but again, pain is temporary, but avoiding it creates permanent problems, permanent issues. And we avoid it because we just don't want to feel it. But sometimes you got to feel it. How do you reframe pain? You have to ask yourself, why is what I'm going through a good thing? Reframing pain is like turning obstacles into opportunities, right? In my focus framework, which is finding optimism and clarity using small steps, the O stands for optimism. And you reframe pain by enabling optimism, which is turning obstacles into opportunities. And the only way that you do that is asking yourself the hard question of, why is this a good thing? What is this teaching me? This may hurt, but every time I hurt before, it made me stronger. And just take the hit fast. Bouncing back from the pain is the second level, right? It's one thing being able to accept it, but the second level is like bouncing back. So it's when you get punched in the mouth, or you get punched in the eye and you got a black eye, let's say, which may be necessary, just put some ice on it and bounce back. Like, admit the mistakes, admit the issues that you got, that you're dealing with quickly, so then that way you can endure the pain fast and you can reframe and get back to it. Like, take the L quick, because that's the only way that you turn the losing into learning. Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. Pain now, harvest later. Avoid pain now, harvest never. The pain that you feel today is only going to be the strength that you are able to apply tomorrow. So, vulnerability is leadership, y'all. I don't know if you know who Brené Brown is. I would strongly recommend to read any of her books. If you feel like maybe you got a little bit of ego, you got a little bit of pride, you got a little bit of shame. You're kind of beating yourself up for things that you need to let go. But you need to be open about it, because once you start revealing, that's when you start healing. And vulnerability is not a weakness. It's literally our greatest measure of courage. And when you admit that you're wrong, or you need help, or you own your mistakes, you face the pain, you're not being weak. You're being a leader. Because trust me, when you're working on yourself in self-development, personal development, yes, all the time you're just working on your flaws. But real strength is owning your cause and taking a moment to reflect and pause. Pain today, harvest tomorrow. Come on, y'all. Appreciate you being on today. Make sure you share this video with somebody that needs to hear this. And just the last thing I want to go over is this, right? Is follow through, and then we'll follow you. There's a book called The Four Agreements, and the first agreement is being impeccable with your word. When you say something, do it. When you say something, do it. Because here's the power of being impeccable with your word. You start to believe in yourself, and then you start to build confidence. But the confidence comes with the competence. And the only way that you could become competent is to be vulnerable and transparent and open up and say where their issues are. And then be real with your word. Like say that, okay, once I've been corrected, now let me go ahead and apply what I said I need to do differently. And then once you do that differently, now you can actually feel the feeling of what it's like to actually be a leader. Because you could tell everybody else to go ahead and stick to their word, but what if you're not? You could tell everybody else that they need to do a better job, but what if you're not? You know, it's interesting because there's a lot of people that will tell you what you need to do with your life, but sometimes they're telling you what to do based on what's best for them. And it's interesting, the moment that you actually say, hey, listen, you could be doing something differently, and that leader says, no, I've been doing this way for a very long time, you can see that they stopped growing. Because anybody that's not willing to actually reflect on how they're doing things over time and actually review how they're performing, to stick together. I mean, think about how technology is moving so fast right now. And a lot of people are leveraging AI to just want to use it as a speed tool. But I just made something with Claude the other day where I had it actually take on the role as an AI agent, right? And it went ahead and created a Google form for me really fast. And then I said, hey, make me a QR code. So it did that too. And then I gave it out to somebody to use, right? And they were hosting a meeting and they wanted to use the form for feedback on the meeting. When the people went to scan the QR code, it only worked for a certain amount of time. But everybody's preaching online, hey, you know what? Use Claude and it can do all these things for you. But yeah, speed is good, but sometimes speed kills. Because if you're not actually reflecting and reviewing and you're trusting something because you want to be lazy, you still have to be a leader and make sure that things are actually working properly. And don't take the advice of somebody else that's just going to tell you what to do and you just run from it. You need to question the advice, but you need to accept the feedback. So come together and find out how to use something and make sure that it's accurate before you start telling other people what to do with it. Because there's too many people even right now that are telling people what they should and shouldn't do with AI when they haven't even built a business using AI inside of it. Like, I'm probably in the top maybe 5% when it comes to using AI in business. And I've used it in my business, in our business, in the business that I'm working in. I'm not trying to create a business that's wrapped around information that I just learned from a YouTube video to tell you, hey, listen, I just learned that you could do this with AI. So, I got great communication skills. So hop on this masterclass and I'm just going to reiterate what I just learned on a video, not knowing that I haven't even tested it yet to see if it's actually going to give people real results. And then secondly, if you've been running the same play for a decade, if you've been selling the same thing for a decade, yes, if it's principles, it will always work. But just know something. Things are moving very fast right now, so you need to stay up to date. So if you're selling the same thing that you sold 10 years ago, the only thing that's going to tell you to keep selling it is if you're checking your data. And a lot of leaders out here, or so-called leaders out here, are saying that what they're doing is still working, but they're not gathering feedback from their customers when they have a complaint. They're not checking the data for the people that it didn't work for. They're just blaming them instead of looking into it. And that's an ego thing. So you got to be very careful who you work with. And like I said in the last video, the difference between a real leader and a fake influencer is the fruit. Like it says in the Bible, you will know them by their fruit. So, listen, God allowed Adam and Eve to make a mistake. Then he held them accountable. That's the model. But what ended up happening? They didn't want to take accountability. 6,000 years ago, they didn't want to take accountability. 6,000 years later, they still don't. The biggest issue when it comes to leadership right now in 2026 is accountability. And why do they run from accountability? Ego, pride, and pain. If you're somebody that's a business owner that's struggling with this, I would love to help you because I know what it's like to actually put up that wall and that boundary that's keeping you from growing or getting to the next level for yourself, for your team, for your business, for your customers, for your clients. I would love to help. But again, this is something to where I just wanted to share this information because if you really pay attention to what was said in this video today, you will become a real leader. Because the three reasons, the three things that leaders just run from are ego, pride, and pain. But how to fix them is practicing humility, celebrating others, reframing pain as preparation, and acting fast. But some people need help with that. If you're somebody that needs help with that, let me know. Reach out to me. I'd love to help. But I just want to tell you something. You don't need a new life. You need a new lens. Everything may be going the best that it should be going. But the problem may be your patience. It may be your lack of accountability. And it may be that you don't need something new. You just need to learn how to let go. You need to learn how to let go of what's not been working and know that you need to humble yourself. So hopefully this added some value today for the leader that wants to become a better one. Hopefully I went into detail and described exactly what it means to really what's happening, what you're doing to avoid your next level of life. And if you find yourself in any way, shape, or form having an ego or pride or really avoiding pain, come back to this video and know that none of us have it all together. I don't have it all together. I just want to share this information because it's helped me and it consistently helps me. And I have people that still check me too and tell me, hey man, you're doing this and it kind of seems like you're being prideful. And I don't want to be prideful, so I'm going to listen to them. So if somebody gives you any advice or wants to give you any advice or wants to give you any feedback, champion that, welcome that, because it may be the very thing that you need to do to fix exactly the problem that's in front of you today. So again, this has been another episode of the Perspective Pause, our live stream every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, where we do teach that you don't need a new life, you just need a new lens, and everything is a perspective. Everything. And the hills and the valleys in your life are not places. The mountains, the hills, and the valleys in your life, they're not places, they're perspectives. Because wherever you are right now, there's something that you're so blessed to have. 150,000 people didn't get the chance to wake up today, but you did. Start with gratitude. Then it's time to grow. Let's go. And remember, take ownership, take action, take off. I'll see you guys next week. God bless y'all. And share this video with a leader that you know that needs to see this. All right, y'all. Peace.